Good evening, everybody, and thanks for joining us. Sorry, we had a couple of technical difficulties. You know how that stuff goes with Hangouts and stuff. So again, thanks for joining us for tonight's fourth episode of another round. We've got the entire crew back from vacations and screwing off and whatever everybody else was doing, and it looks like everybody we're good to go. So why don't we get this show started? And again, thanks for everybody for joining us tonight. So we got some good topics to discuss, and what we'll do is we'll just have everybody introduce themselves and then let everybody know what we're drinking tonight. So I'll start with Bobby first. Bobby, go ahead and let everybody know a little bit about yourself and your channel and what you're drinking tonight.
Hi, ladies and gents. I'm Bobby Childs from Adventures in Whiskey. What am I drinking tonight? I've got some scotch since I just came back from Scotland, just like Scott from the Scotch Test Dummies, which he'll tell you about soon. What am I drinking? I've got some Speyburn 15 to start things off with, which is a really, really nice single malt.
Next up, Jason C. Go ahead, bud.
I gotta unmute my mic would actually really help. So sorry about that. I'm Jason C. from the Mash and Drum. What's up, everybody? I am sipping tonight. I decided to do a little scotch tonight since I kind of blew my liver out drinking a ton of bourbon in Kentucky. I'm having a little Bunnahabhain 18 right now, and I got some Ardbeg Korviekin in the pipe. So
cool.
Thanks for having. Thanks for joining in, guys.
Kyle, you're up, bud.
What's up, guys? I'm Kyle.
I'm Marianne.
We taste whiskey. We don't know what it is. We give you a price we'd be willing to pay for it. Yeah.
Without the hype of the label.
Anyway, Bourbon Blind. Name pretty much says it all. We're the best blind channel on YouTube. Ooh. So, yeah, come by and say what's up.
Ouchie.
You got a rebuttal for that?
Come on, bro. You know me. What's up, guys? I'm John from Blind Whiskey Reviews. It's easy to try to pretend you're the best when you copy my format. Just saying, bro. Just saying. Anyways, yeah, tonight I am sipping on a little bit of E.H. Taylor small batch. Nothing special.
Cool. And last but not least, Scott.
Hey, Scott here, Scotch Test Dummies, one half of the Scotch Test Dummies, the best pair of dummies on YouTube.
Yeah.
And sometimes we do blind stuff too.
And
I like how Scott looked a little crazy when he said that. That was awesome.
And tonight, well, not just tonight, but I'm Scott with My Bourbon Journey, and yeah, I don't have to battle really any of these guys. I just do my own thing, and it is what it is. So thanks for joining us tonight, guys. We got everybody back in the saddle, so that's good. So we've got some good topics tonight. The first one, I guess, kind of right out of the gate. Actually, before we kind of get into some things, let's say hi to everybody. I'm just going to kind of go back through a little bit and see who we've got. William Devlar, Stellar Matrix. Christopher David, how's it going? Most Chun, Dustin Martin, Loch Ness, Chris, Bourbon Zane, Matt, Whiskey Crusaders, Richie Z, hey buddy, Mark JG, Captain Make It Happen, how's it going? Let's see, who else? Eric Waite, how's it going? Richie Z, I think I said your name. Cooper 57M, how's it going? Mike M, how's it going? Let's see. Steve A, Curry Bowling, Dram Man Kentucky, Charles Ashworth, and a whole bunch of other people. Karen B. Ford. Who else? I think that's it right now. We'll keep an eye on it. So, all right. So right out of the gate, I guess I was thinking of this the other day, and I know you guys all know that it's kind of a little bit of a hot topic right now, but Marianne Barnes or Marianne Eades, whatever you want to call her, from Castle and Key, recently left fairly suddenly, and I'd be interested to know your thoughts on why you think that happened, kind of so abruptly the way it did.
I'll start off. I haven't had any of their products, and I reached out to Marianne probably a year ago or so on social media and never heard back from her. So I don't have any input in that.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. I mean, I guess I'll kind of jump in here. It was interesting from the standpoint of, and Jason and I, we were talking about this the other night when we were in Kentucky. But for somebody to be on board with Castle and Key so early on and kind of develop her product and what it is that she likes, and then now that you're approaching maybe months or maybe a year away from that product being released, to all of a sudden just like leave for whatever reason that may be, it seemed a little strange that you'd kind of leave your baby behind like that without ever having the opportunity to kind of introduce it to, really to the public. So, that was where I kind of thought, there must have been something, and I'm just speculating again, but maybe there was something going on that prompted that, whether it was on her side, because I know she said she left to go do consulting or some of those other things, but call it what it is. But I just thought it was a little strange to go through that whole process and then just kind of up and leave. So
it seemed a bit sudden. I mean, like Rob, the distiller from Stranahan's today, announced that he was going to be he's leaving Stranahan's, and he's got his next gig. It's master distiller of Metallica's blackened whiskey. So there's a next job. But with Marianne, you're right. It seemed very sudden. Seems to be sort of a vague future in terms of what she's doing. So something had to be going on behind the scenes.
I didn't see that yet. Rob Diedrich is leaving Stranahan's.
Yeah, he's going to be head distiller for Metallica's blackened whiskey.
Oh, very nice. I like what he's done at Stranahan's.
Yeah, he's done some fantastic stuff there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the circumstances under which she left, because there's no details, would kind of suggest there's something nasty went on. Maybe she didn't like the direction the distillery was going in. Maybe she wasn't happy with the product. Maybe they weren't giving her, free reign to do what she wanted to do. So who knows? All speculation, really.
Yeah, it really is. I just thought, it was kind of one of those things where no matter what your product is that you craft, you wouldn't want to get it, 90% done and then leave and then never have the opportunity to, really kind of introduce it to the world, so to speak. It just seemed a little strange. And I guess to Bobby's point, recently within the last maybe year or so, there's been a lot of jumping back and forth from these distilleries, more than we can probably really ever remember. And it's just, I don't know if it's just how fluid the industry is or whatever it may be, but it just, that part kind of, it was a little strange to me why that may have happened.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of people moving around. I mean, Pam Hamlin out of Michter's, she just retired. I know somebody kind of moved up on the ranks there to become master distiller. I'm not sure if they're going to be bringing anyone in there to take over that spot, or if they're happy with who they have. Based on the product that Michter's has, I think they're doing pretty well. But it was surprising that Marianne Eades did leave so suddenly, especially without her. I mean, judging by what they were aging, I mean, they have a bottled and bond bourbon in the warehouse right now that's supposed to be ready in 2021. That'll be 4 years. Now, whether that's the beginning of the 2021 or the end, depending on when it's ready, I'd be surprised that, why she didn't kind of stick around and kind of see that through. And when that releases, is she going to be involved at all? And because she was the kind of the creator of that, or she is completely hands off? I'd be more interested in that rather than why she left. I really want to know what kind of bourbon is aging in that warehouse. But I know she's leaving to do some consulting, and I think based on her stature in the bourbon industry, I don't think anything really happened. I think people want to speculate, but honestly, I think it's just a matter of she probably had some really great opportunities put forth, and she probably just took it. She's very highly followed and very highly regarded. So I'm curious to see what's next. I mean, I've heard some rumors she may be the next distiller at Michter's or somewhere else. So it'd be curious to see what happens.
I mean, you kind of got to keep in mind in any industry that's growing at the pace and speed that bourbon is, where there's so much opportunity and a finite amount of experience for, distillers, there's always going to be that carrot dangled in front of your face of someone who's willing to pay you more or give you more freedom to do what you want. So I would guess, opportunity arose, and that's why so many people are moving around. And when you come up through a company or a distillery in this case, you probably don't make quite as much as if you were to jump around to other distilleries and get a little bit more of that type of experience and have someone kind of court you and make you come to them because they have to dangle that carrot and pay you more to get you. So there's a lot of that going on. So I'd imagine that has a lot to do with a lot of people moving around.
Yeah. And maybe that was just part of all the speculation, and it was easy to do that. But it was just kind of, it was different, but I can imagine that, when you become a hot commodity, just like, really anybody, people want you and they're going to poach you. And if that's the way it goes, then so be it, so good for her. If that's really ultimately what it all is. So.
And getting poached has to be a great experience. You're making good, you're getting that money. So
yeah. I mean,
was talking about, that they would expect that master distillers make, a lot of money and everything else, but they really don't. It's almost kind of sad. I mean, they're really not that well paid. So, very easily could have been something along the lines of, another distillery said, hey, we want you to come work for us or consult for us or whatever, and offered her, a boatload more money than she was making currently. Because let's face it, when she started, she really didn't have all that much experience. She's young. She's, so someone said, hey, we really like what you're doing. We'll pay you twice as much or, whatever. Or like John said, she could have been not happy with, they said, hey, we want you to do stuff this way. And she didn't think that was the way it should be done. Or, like you said, it's all speculation at this point. So,
yeah.
You got someone like Jim Rutledge, who has just the world of knowledge at his fingertips, and he tried to get that distillery off the ground and been raised the funds for it.
Yeah, and there was some talk potentially about maybe her kind of going over there. That was a possibility as well. So I know it's all speculation, but it's fun to talk about and try to figure things out or whatever it may be. But kind of interesting from that standpoint. So.
Hey guys, how about we do a quick another round? Cheers to everybody watching. Haven't sipped anything yet, so.
Yep, and I'll do a little. See who's in the chat here, but thanks for everybody joining tonight for the fourth episode of another round. Cheers, guys.
Absolutely. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
All right, let's see who else we got in here. All right, Rare Bird 101. Hey, David, how's it going? Dustin, Sam Gothier. Let's see. Scrappy McGillicuddy, that's a cool name. There we go. That's a good one. ADHD Fishing, how's it going? Robert Licorice, doing some fantastic things down there at Iron Root. Thanks for joining. The Linux Cat. Who else? I think that's it right now. So, all right. So what's everybody drinking tonight? What's everyone sipping on? What are you guys enjoying tonight? I know we kind of briefly talked about it a little bit, but let everybody know what you're drinking tonight.
I did.
I just grabbed a bottle of the John J. Bowman single barrel. I tried to grab a few bottles that I kind of haven't been grabbing towards lately. They kind of migrated to the back of the cabinet. Aaron just grabbed New Riff single barrel. So, that's what we got going on right now.
Cheers.
Yeah, those new riffs are some good picks right there. I'll tell you.
I'm late to the party. I haven't tried
really like
anything from New Riff. I'm hearing great things.
Yeah, for 4-year-old product, they're really putting out some great stuff.
Yeah, this one here, it's kind of I actually we both like the regulars
off the shelf.
Small batch better, but we got another pick from a local group, and it was absolutely phenomenal.
This one's good.
Real quick, Eric Way put in here, maybe Marianne is moving to Texas where they know what real bourbon is all about. Ooh.
Wow, them's is fighting words.
Shots fired, that is for sure. That's for sure.
I don't know about that, Eric.
Oh boy. All right. So, Bobby, what do you got? What are you drinking tonight?
What am I drinking right now? I'm drinking Stayburn 15-year-old, which is fantastic. It's matured in American and Spanish oak casks, 46%. It's a great space cider. It's sort of a richer version of a Glenmorangie 18, a little more fruity version of like a Glenmorangie 18 in terms of style. Is what I'd say with that. Good stuff.
I am sipping on, actually, I'm doing some scotch tonight. I'm sipping on a Bunnahabhain 18. This is the old label before they changed it up. Natural color, 46.3% ABV, aged in ex-bourbon and ex-sherry cask. It's Bunnahabhain's one of my favorite distilleries that I've had scotch-wise, and I'm in love with this bottle. It's so good.
Dang, you got lucky to get that bottle. Jason.
Yeah, I got to thank someone in Kansas that helped me out with that one. I don't know who that is, but I want to say thanks to that guy.
I need to reach out to the my Kansas connection to see if they can hook me up.
I'll check around. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a stellar bottle. It's just it's like dark raisins and walnuts and sherry and some of those vanillas from the bourbon. It has so many layers of flavor. It's so good.
What did you say the proof was on that? 92 proof?
No, 46.3%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very nice. John, what about you?
Yeah, I'm still drinking on that E.H. Taylor small batch.
Yeah.
I reviewed this one a while back, and I haven't drank very much of it. I'm kind of on a mission. I've made mention of this on some Instagram posts and on my channel, but I'm on a mission to finish bottles, man. I'm getting really upset with myself and all these open bottles that I keep. Having a whiskey review channel, it forces you to open bottles all the time, but I really need to focus on getting rid of some of these things and enjoying this whiskey before it starts turning south. So I'm going to be nursing on this one for a little bit.
That's easy to do with all the reviews everyone does. You end up with a lot of open things, and we all want to acquire all the good stuff and the new stuff, but you just kind of get left behind with the old open stuff, poor things.
John,
it's a hard life, but someone's got to live it.
You got it. You got it.
John, you need to stop sipping it and stop nursing it and start drinking it.
All right, man.
More shots fired. More shots. Scotty, what are you pouring?
Well, I started. Usually, another round is more bourbon centered, so I started with some bourbon, Old Ezra 7, and then I just poured the barrel strength one. If I'd have known more people were drinking scotch, though, I might have jumped on that one. Especially since just getting back from Scotland, and I'll tell you, Bunnahabhain was one of my favorite experiences. Great distillery. I've got several bottles back here now, and it's quickly moving up in my ranks.
Yeah, Scott, I don't know if you heard about the Phase Gilles bottle that they released, the 16-year. I forgot what they aged it in, but
I saw it. Yeah, I don't remember now what it was either.
Yeah, it's supposed to be insanely good, and I'm super jealous. I wish I was there to get that bottle, but yeah.
We did the Warehouse 9 tasting, and during that we had an Amontillado cask finish.
Oh wow!
And I want to say it's 15 years old, but so it's bottled. That same cask that you're tasting during the tour, they have some bottles for sale in the gift shop there. And myself and Roy both picked up a bottle of it. It's so outstanding.
Hey, Scott, do you and Bobby want to share a little bit with everybody kind of your trip and kind of maybe some of your favorite things you did while you were there?
Well, so we started, Bart and I, of course, went over. We were in Ireland for 5 days and then 7 days in Scotland. Ireland, we were pretty restricted. We stuck to Waterford Distillery, and we didn't get to see too much outside of that. So Scotland, I can tell you, though, we went from Glasgow and the Edinburgh area through Islay, up the west coast to Inverness, up in the Highlands, and Speyside, and then came back down. I can tell you that the west coast and the Islay region of Scotland is just, it's beautiful. Loved it.
Mine was a whirlwind trip. We started out at flew into Glasgow, went to the Diageo archives, which was just a dream, especially their liquid library. There's so much stuff there to look at. Then we went to we took a bus to Oban, which was beautiful. We totally drank way too much the first night. Then we flew over to Skye, which was just amazing. I love taking photos, and like literally, it was so beautiful. You cannot take a bad photo when you're out there. So we visited Talisker up there. Then we swung back around to hit the GLENCAIRN Distillery, which was equally beautiful. It was fantastic. I really need to go back, take some time.
Yeah, well, you just seeing some of the stuff you posted and everything, it looked like you guys were having a good time. I know Kyle, I know he was at the New Orleans Bourbon Fest, and Jason and we were just well, I know John was with Kyle, I don't think there, but they did at Jack Daniel's tour and stuff. So I think within the last few months, a lot of us have seen some pretty good things. Jason and we were just down in Kentucky this past week and did a lot of stuff. We visited, first day was, Wednesday. Let me try to remember back to this. Jason, you might have to help me. Wednesday. Wednesday was okay. Yeah. Let me think back here. Sorry.
Wednesday was Bardstown with Heaven Hill, Willett, Bardstown Bourbon Company. Had a fantastic tasting there. Met up with the Carters from Old Carter Whiskey Company after that. Then we continued to still drink in our hotel after that. Had a couple Dusties. The next day we did Michter's, Old Forester, Peerless. We had a great interview with Caleb Kilburn down at the recently named Master Distiller, at least in December. Master Distiller of Peerless Distilling. Had a tasting there. Some really unique and amazing single barrels they're putting out.
Yeah,
and
really
then the last day we got to do some distillery tours a little bit. Went to Buffalo Trace, Wild Turkey, Woodford Reserve. And then we finished the night with a new podcast called The Bourbon Road. We recorded a 2-hour episode with a double blind tasting. So that'll probably air at some point soon. So it was a lot of liquid coming through our bodies. That
was the liver and brain are just still not working together. That's for sure right now. But no, it was a lot of fun. So we did all those things that he mentioned, had a really good time and all of that. So, all right. So here, why don't we move on? I got a couple other things. Wanted to get your thoughts on infinity bottles and how you guys go about kind of preparing an infinity bottle. I mean, I know it's one of those things that can be very subjective and very personal, of course. But let me know your thoughts on infinity bottles and kind of how you guys go about putting them together if you have one.
I like to drink barrel bourbons or barrels infinity bottle, if that counts.
That counts.
That's my extent.
I actually have a few of them going. I have one that is low proof. It's 100 proof and under. A high proof one is 100 proof and over, and a Four Roses one. And on my last live stream, someone mentioned I should do a bottled and bond infinity bottle, which I was like, that's a good idea. I should do that. So, I had another one before that was just kind of everything. And I mean, it was good, but I was like, well, sometimes you want something low proof, sometimes you want something high proof. So I kind of split it up and started two new ones. So it's been good. The high proof one is phenomenal. Yeah, it's really good. So
do you have any like do's and don'ts or any suggestions that you would kind of give people if they were looking at starting one? What would you recommend they do?
I would recommend don't put anything in there that you don't like. It's going to pretty much just kind of permeate through that, and you'll always, at least me, I always kind of picked up on that flavor for a while. I usually do the last ounce or two of a bottle. I'll go ahead and put that in there. Some people do the first couple ounces when they first open something, but I really like to get to know a bottle before I go adding it to it. So
yeah,
the only thing I would say is if you feel like you have to put something in there, maybe you don't like it, just put a drop in there. Cause I mean, that's still going to meet the requirements. You've added it to your infinity bottle. And, if you feel like you have to add all of your bourbons, or your bottled and bonds in there, just throw a drop in there. That's going to meet the requirements. So
exactly. Actually, it's funny you mentioned that. The last little bit of my Pappy 20, I put in my first infinity bottle. So there'll always be some of that in there. So
yep, there you go. Yeah. The only one I have is I started after our sherry shootout, and I took all the leftovers of 16 sherry bombs and combined them. And since I've added Glendronach 21 and Glengoyne 21 to it, and I think that's about it. I probably have one or two more I could add to it, but it's strictly just sherry bombs.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I know there's a million different things people can do, and I know you're a huge sherry fan. So, is there anything that you wouldn't do? I know Kyle mentioned things that you wouldn't really drink, but is there anything that you'd not want to do with one?
Yeah, and I've debated adding even just a splash of peat to it, but I haven't. I mean, I just and I don't mind peat, but I want it separate from my sherry. It's like a Reese's peanut butter bar. Your chocolate and your peanut butter, keep them separate.
That would give it more of a little sherry. A little peat would give it more of a compass box sort of thing.
Yeah, and I mean, I like Dark Cove. I like Lefroy Glore. I like peat and sherries together, but my preference is keep them separate, keep the sherry and love it for what it is.
Yeah, for me, when I start a blend, I usually start with a base of a whiskey I really like, and then I'll think of something to contrast that flavor a little bit to see how that blends together, and then I'll usually add a third whiskey to it, something a little bit in between if I can, and then let that sit and rest. I think a lot of people they want to blend it and then they pour it right away. A couple tips I usually do is I'll let it rest overnight, see how it all mingles together because it does need some time. One thing I did learn too is if your flavor profile is a little bit off and something doesn't taste right, it's not really kind of where you want it to be. Adding a young whiskey in there actually helps a lot. So if you add a younger whiskey into your blend or into your infinity bottle, if the flavor profile is a little bit off, kind of cuts down those off flavor profiles and kind of gives you a fresh shot of a young whiskey profile. So that's probably one tip I could give. But yeah, as far as infinity bottles go, I've started one with bourbon that I have, and I'm using strictly wheated bourbons to see how that turns out. So
nice, that would be a good one.
Yeah.
See, that's interesting that you say that, and I thought that was awesome with Scott doing the sherry thing, and that's kind of where I would go with it. Is do like all sherry. Like I have an all Four Roses infinity bottle. Shocker. I thought about starting like a Russell single barrel infinity bottle. Same thing with like Knob Creek. But I never thought of like the sherry thing. That would be awesome, even just for like finished stuff in general,
Yeah, it'd be interesting to do like an infinity bottle with some, everyone's finishing stuff in rum now. It'd be interesting to kind of do like a rum finished infinity too. See how that would come out.
I mean, you could do all kinds of stuff.
I've avoided the infinity bottle thing.
What's that, John?
I was saying I've always kind of avoided the infinity bottle. The whole idea kind of bothers me in the sense that like you may make something amazing and you'll never get to drink it again because once you've made it, you don't know what's in it. So I always kind of stick more towards blending stuff that I know I can recreate. So I've always avoided it. But
Eric Waite's asking, how about an Eternal Damnation whiskey bottle made from horrible whiskeys?
Oh.
That'd be very interesting.
He always likes to bring up that Glyph Molecular one that he has, Johnny Walker White Walker and Johnny Walker Red.
That's something. Well, now Johnny Walker Red, I actually don't mind, but the White Walker was terrible.
Yeah.
Glyph I haven't had, but when are you going to drink that, Eric? You're going to mix that up, and what are you going to do with it?
Yeah, I think our challenge to Eric is find a use for that Glyph Molecular, whether it be a mixer, a blend. That's his challenge. I'm calling that out for Eric. You find a way to use that Glyph Molecular and then make a video.
And a video for it. Yep.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Dustin,
the only Johnny Walker Red I like is this old one from like the early 70s. That's the only Johnny Walker Red I'll drink. I can't stand the new stuff.
Well, I'm not saying it's the best stuff you're ever going to drink, but it's not
You
terrible.
can't put Johnny Walker Red and best in the same sentence.
people have, unfortunately. But.
Actually, Kyle, you alluded to it earlier. I actually made an all bottled and bond blend probably a few months ago. I had about 8 different ones in there, and it actually was pretty damn delicious.
It turned out pretty good then.
You know, that'd be a good one. I mean, really, you know, you get that 100 proof. I mean, it really starts to become a little bit of a sweet spot. I mean, for a lot of bourbons and all of that, and you know, blending a lot of good ones together. I think that'd be a fantastic, you know, infinity bottle to kind of put together. That'd be a neat one.
Yeah, because bottled and bond, you know, bottles, some of them have such completely different flavor profiles. You know, considering that most of them are still 4 years old, 100 proof. When you mix those together, you start picking out the flavors of the strengths of ones or the other, and some of the weaknesses of other ones. So it's kind of fun playing with that balance to try to work that out. It's a fun one to do. It really kind of gets you curious of how to kind of manipulate the flavors in that type of a bottle.
Well, like Kyle had mentioned before, you know, or Scott mentioned before, you know, you add something that has a unique flavor to it, and then all of a sudden that whole entire bottle flavor can change. I know he mentioned like peat, and that's a pretty dominant type of flavor. So, you know, I can see maybe not wanting to add peat, or maybe, you know, to a sherry, you know, infinity bottle, because that peat may really affect it quite a bit. So
one thing I would say is definitely take your time. Go ahead, Bobby.
I was going to say, and all you need just a tiny bit of peat in a big bottle, and it's going to completely permeate. You're right.
Yeah.
But I cannot overemphasize people letting their blends or their infinity bottles sit for a while before you dive in. It needs.
That's what I was just about to say.
Yeah.
Even like a couple weeks, like when you start a new bottle, you know, you pour 4, 5, 8, 12 different things in there, and you taste it, and it tastes like you mixed a bunch of whiskeys together, and it's usually not very good.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, that's something that does need some time to just mingle and blend, and just add them when you're done with it. Let it sit and just let it do its thing. Because yeah, that was one thing I learned early on. I thought maybe I could shake it a few times, it'd be all blended, and no, that doesn't work that way. But after about months, it really got good. So.
One thing I haven't tried is what Blake from Bourboner said he did with the Four Roses blending was actually like put it in a blender for, you know, like a minute or two, and that kind of helps aerate it and get everything mingling. I haven't tried it yet. He said that it worked, but so that might be something to experiment with.
He did that with his poor man's Pappy that he sent out when he did one of his Bourboner blind tastings too, and the poor man's Pappy won. They all said it was the best, and he had just blended it like a couple days before or something in a blender.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never heard that. I've always heard never shake it like up together because it ruins the whiskey. To let it sit. You could kind of swirl it around a little bit, but never shake it around. So putting it in a blender completely defeats the that argument. It's kind of
apparently it works. I've heard that more than once from other people, but maybe short term it works, you know, maybe within a week or two, but maybe that oxidation over a longer period of time might ruin your whiskey. But if it's like a samples you're sending out, maybe that's okay. Who knows?
Richie Z brought up to do a rye infinity bottle or a rye blend. That'd be pretty interesting to do with so many different ryes on the market nowadays.
Yeah, that would really be a.
I think I'm going to work on that, Richie. I think you just gave me an idea. I think I'm going to empty out one of my bottles and do that.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I mean, that's the influence of rye. I mean, just the term rye is interesting, but I think just blending all different types of rye whiskey, you know, a high rye, low rye. I mean, that could really be interesting. I mean, it's such a dominant flavor profile that would be a really interesting blend, I think, as well.
And I still think letting them marry for a period of time. I'm not saying the blender thing doesn't work, but I'm with John. It does feel a little bit like long term. How would that extra oxygen affect the whiskey? It's like leaving your bottle open for.
Plus, with my luck, my wife would come around and throw some kale in there or something.
Yeah, don't knock until you tried it.
Yeah.
Hey, I made a smoothie. Oh my God, what'd you do?
that was my experimental blend. You put kale in it.
That's a $300 smoothie.
Kale infused whiskey.
Here's an interesting question. Do you think blending something like that literally in a blender at that kind of a high speed, if you start getting into some of like the non-chill filtered bourbons or whiskeys, you think that could potentially affect it at all? Break something down?
I mean, if it, I would assume it did. Otherwise, the big boys would be blending their whiskeys like that and packaging them and sending them out and making some money. Everyone seems to let their blends vary for a while in oak casks.
It sounds like something for a blind taste test.
I wonder if anybody has expertise in doing that.
I wonder if there's any honest whiskey channels out there that would be willing to do that, or anybody else that does things blind. You guys,
fellas, we may have just come up with a good segment for one of our next episodes. We'll all send out some samples and do a little blind tasting for everybody.
There you go.
We have a month to make some kind of a blend and then send them out to each other. That'd be pretty fun.
That would be an interesting one. That's for sure.
I want to try Scotch Sherry blend there. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, that does sound good.
Yeah.
Hey, Dustin had asked a question before DH still too. If any of you guys were looking forward to any new releases coming out anytime soon. I know we're kind of in a weird part of the year for that kind of stuff, but is there anything that maybe just came out or anything that's on the horizon soon that you guys are looking forward to getting at all?
You know, if I saw a bottle of that, the new Orphan Barrel Forager's Keep or whatever it is, that's the Scotch, and it was in the normal range, 150 to 200, I would probably pick up one of those.
Yeah, they got it, Scott, here actually just today at my store, and it's priced at $400.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's crazy.
Well, for a 26-year-old whiskey single malt from a distillery that doesn't exist anymore, it's not too ridiculous.
Yeah, I suppose if that's the age of it. 26-year-old single malt, $400. The thing, yeah, but
Rarity.
Even Gordon and MacPhail would get 400 for something. Well, no, they would for sure.
You know, Orphan released that a single malt from that distillery a few years back. I don't know what they priced it at. I think it was like a 23, 24-year-old.
Where's it from?
I'm gonna slaughter the name of this distillery. Pitavayak, I think.
Never heard of it.
Because it's close. I think that the whiskey's 26 years old. It's older than however long the distillery's been in operations.
It is. There's a couple places. If you go to Wine Searcher, there's a couple places in the States have it for $370. I thought it was going to be cheaper than that, so I was kind of holding out to see. But
yeah, I actually mentioned this in the last live stream I was on before this one. Was that like I'm done with Orphan Barrel. They've disappointed me more often than not. So the prices to pay for those bottles, I can't do it anymore.
Well, I was sort of on the ropes for a while until this last one got announced, because I've been waiting for something outside of the United States to come out, and they have such a giant single malt or grain catalog. I'm curious to see what they can come out with.
So you're gonna pick one up and put it in a blender?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, if you spend $400 and you don't like it, really, what's left to do then except put it in a blender and see if it gets better?
That's very true. That's very true. All right, so
I'm looking forward to the Wild Turkey Cornerstone, hands down.
Yes.
It's being released on Father's Day, and I cannot wait.
Yeah,
what's the price on that supposed to be?
Around the 180 range. It's going to be up there, but
bastards.
You know,
keep rising in price.
Here's the nice part with that. So I mean, that's one of those whiskeys that comes out. Again, it's still fairly expensive, but you know, it's not one, even with all the hype and anticipation, not one that's just going to jump right to $400 or $450. I mean, it still makes it, you know, kind of attainable. You know, they put out a fair amount of it for everybody. So that's one nice thing that I like that Wild Turkey does a lot of, is that they allow people to kind of get their hands on things for the most part, which is kind of refreshing, you know, in the bourbon world these days.
Unless, you know, Russell's Reserve 2002.
Okay, all right. Well, thanks, Bob.
Well, you know, I never saw that one, the Russell's 2002, and I never even seen Weller's CYPB. I've never seen a bottle of it.
That was a lotto item in Ohio, and they lucked out. I think they only had like 60 or 50 something bottles that were available to the public that, you know, thousands lined up for. So I never saw that either.
You're not missing much.
I know. I got a pour of it in Nashville when I was there. Some random bar had it, and I tried it, and I'm like, people that are paying $425 for this are dummies.
Or $800.
Yeah, not in a good way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not in the good Scott and Bart good way.
Yeah, that one was it was lackluster. There's no doubt about that. But I mean, it just got.
It's a what, an 8 or a 9-year-old bourbon. I mean, it's a $45-$50 bottle.
Yeah.
And for that, it's probably good. It's probably worth it. But pay more
it's because it's Weller and it's weeded and it's from Buffalo Trace and everything they do. I mean, people, as much as they bash them, they buy and pay whatever prices.
If the secret wasn't out that the same Weller juice was the same stuff that was in Pappy, it'd probably still be attainable. But once people figured that out, it just went bananas.
Well, and that's
the rant building up, fellas. We better get off the topic.
Yeah.
I'm about to go bananas and lose my shit again.
Well, do it, John. Do it.
No, I'm trying to quell the heat.
I shouldn't ask you about Weller Foolproof then.
Yeah, the Weller Foolproof, I know is supposed to start hitting shelves
Soon
this month in some places, I think, in June. Not sure where it's going to end up, but I asked a couple of people at Buffalo Trace when we were down there about it, and of course, you asked them, nobody knew, shit. So, but, as much as I am looking forward to it, it's going to go crazy on the secondary. It's only going to be 7 points higher in proof than the 107. I mean, I don't know. I'm excited to try it, but I'm tempering my expectations for it, definitely.
Yeah, for this one, for whatever reason, I'm more excited for the foolproof than it was the CYPB. For whatever reason, that never really did it for me. But for whatever reason, the foolproof, I'm a little bit more. It'll be interesting if you can find it a good pour of it. Again, you're like talking about a $50 bottle where you're going to go to a lot of places, and a pour could be that much, for crying out loud, or more. So. That's the one thing I've never really could get on board with the whole like Weller hype train. I mean, it's just so frustrating kind of dealing with all of that people talk, about the special reserve, everything, that it's all reject Pappy, this and that. And it does. I mean, like Jason said before, I mean, it's gotten so much hype for so many different reasons that it's just gotten like frustrating to even deal with the stuff.
If I found it and it was retail or maybe slightly higher, I'd buy it just to review it and see what it is. Yeah, but I'm not paying exorbitant prices for it, like I say. And even what gets me with the CYPB is, they do the online survey. What's your perfect bourbon? And they get all the results, and then a year later, they're putting out what people asked for. Well, how'd you create that in a year?
Well,
no one asked for an 8-year-old 90 proof whiskey.
Yeah.
No one.
I know.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Hey, John, we were just baiting you. We knew you'd get in there eventually. So what do you got for us?
I'm taking a drink.
Yeah, if Weller Foolproof somehow comes across at, I don't know if you guys read the same thing. I think the MSRP on that was supposed to be about $55.
Yeah.
You're going to see it on secondary probably for $300-$400 at least when the first bottle hit the market, maybe more than that, which is just insane. Like Scott said, I'll pick it up if it's probably the most I'd pay for it to try it and review it is probably $80, but I'm not going any higher than that.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Well, and that's the thing with that stuff. $50-$55 in today's world for what is it? What is the proof on it?
114.
114. 114.
That proof at 7-8 years old for $50-$55. That can be kind of a buy all day long. As long as it's a good bourbon, that's a great price nowadays for something like that. I mean, that $50 price point, as we all know, has slowly just crept up to now being kind of the median type of price for things. And there's really no looking back. I don't think, for the near future anyway.
If Weller 12 is selling in stores for $150, $160, upwards of $200, I have no idea what Weller Full Proof is going to get up to. It should be pretty crazy to see. I'm more curious to see where it's going to go at stores and locations where what that upcharge is going to be. It should be pretty crazy.
I guess
I got a bottle of Weller 12 the other day for $50 at my liquor store. I was in there and just cruising, and with the Weller Special Reserve was a bottle of 12-year-old. And I picked it up, and I was like, do you guys mean to have this out here? And they said, yep, we just put it out for whoever saw it, they could grab it. And I said, well, how much is it? And they said, $50. I said, I'll take it.
Wow.
Yeah. I was just able to get one recently, actually because of Erin. We were in a store, and she asked them, and they got, I think it was $28. So,
very nice. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, even at 50, like I'd buy that all day long. But my only thing with it is like, okay, so we all know Weller is really hard to get, right? Like even around a lot of places around the country, even the Special Reserve is hard to get. So obviously the supply isn't there to meet the demand. And Buffalo Trace is like, we're really sorry. We're working really hard to, increase supply and, try and get these bottles out to everyone. And we just don't have the stock to do that. But hey, look, here's a new label. So it's like,
John's talking.
Are we there?
Yep. Are you guys there?
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah, we hear you. Yeah, you guys are there. Yeah, I would agree, Kyle. It's just for the price, I mean, it's interesting to see how it's going to shake out. Or will word get around that it's not as good, and then prices come down a little bit? Probably not.
Well, it's like Kyle said, it's funny because they're coming out with a new product because they were short on the whiskey from before at a higher proof, which takes more whiskey to make. And it just doesn't all add up.
Yeah. I mean, hey, that's the thing. I mean, now, we all get, fed lines of BS, and all of us who are a little more savvy to things, when you kind of do the quick math and you realize, all right, well, they're just kind of feeding us more lines of BS. I mean, maybe for most people they would believe it, but we kind of get it. I mean, there's a lot of production of this stuff going on. I think flat out, there's a lot of bourbon out there. I mean, that's the way it is. I mean, they're not just coming up with, new 7, 8, 9, 10-year bourbon. There's a plethora of, Tennessee whiskey. They're selling a bunch of that stuff. Aged whiskey. Now, Kyle, you probably know and hear that stuff down there, but it now seems like the shift has kind of gone from a sourcing standpoint to now a lot of, people or companies picking up a lot of aged Tennessee whiskey too.
Yeah, and we learned that the Tennessee whiskey barrels to buy from there is way cheaper than sourcing from MGP or Diageo or any of those other companies. So you can get a barrel of Tennessee whiskey for about $3-4 grand, where it's about $10-12 grand from MGP. So you're seeing a lot of sourcing coming out of Tennessee lately.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I just picked up the bottle of George Dickel bottled in bond a week ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. 13-year, 100 proof. And it's $38.
Yep. Yeah, I'm waiting for my bottle, Kyle.
I got it for you. Don't worry, buddy.
Well, and that's to that point, $38 for, what did you say it was, 13 years?
13-year, yeah.
I mean, that just goes to show you, probably how much of that there is. If they're going to make a good profit on that at $38, how much 13-year plus Tennessee bourbon is there out there? Probably a lot.
Oh yeah, and I mean, to go along with that, look at the Old Ezra 7-year barrel proof. That's a barrel proof whiskey, 7 years old, and my local liquor store just had some for $28. I mean,
oh man, that's awesome.
7-year barrel proof for less than $30. I mean,
hell yeah!
How much profit margin are some of these people really throwing in there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a buy all day at that.
Yeah, point. And I've met a couple. I have a couple of bourbon buddies that that I talk to, and I don't know how true this is because I still see Buffalo Trace stuff on their bars, but they've supposedly boycotted Buffalo Trace because they don't like the prices and the stories that they're pulling, and they've been very unhappy with what's going on with them and how hard it is to get their stuff. So I get that part of it, but you can't say that and have 15 bottles of Colonel Taylor on your shelf.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing is though too, when the secondary is paying $200 for Weller 12-year,
Yeah,
Buffalo Trace isn't making that $200.
exactly. They're not. It's.
I mean, they've sold the bottle for $20 or $25, whatever, to the distributor. So it's not like they're cashing in on this secondary.
Yeah, exactly. They're not making any money on it. They're just putting out what they could put out. But I just feel like they're just kind of. I don't know how true this is. I just feel like they have more whiskey than they trickle out to everybody, and that's what kind of gets people heated up.
Hey, does anybody know the allocation? Maybe Kyle, you know the allocation for the Dicko bottle and bond.
The numbers on it.
It's
Yeah.
it's Tennessee only right now, isn't it, Kyle?
It is Tennessee only. I think it's going to be that way. I think it's a limited edition, and I don't think they're going to open it up outside of Tennessee. And
Sorry to interrupt. There was an event I saw a whiskey writer. I think they were in Manhattan or something where that was launched as well. So I think it's going to be a nationwide thing,
that'd be cool.
or at least select markets anyway.
If it's
13-year
not,
100 proof.
if it's not, we're going to need a supplier.
I know a place that has a few bottles. So, and the distillery is like 20 minutes from my house. So,
Well, it sounds like we just found a supplier. Just saying. All right, so I know we're getting close to the 1 hour mark, and I'm reluctant to go down this rabbit hole because this may last a little while. But are you guys interested at all? We kind of did a podcast the other night with Jim and Randy from the Bourbon Road, and they had a good question that was there, and it involved the TTB and labeling and how that all kind of factored into, like finished bourbons not being all bourbon. Do we want to go down that road? Are you guys okay if we go down that for maybe a little while?
Well, you actually have. We got started late. It was 5, 6, 7 minutes after the hour, so you have at least 10 minutes. But
all right, let's do it. So I guess I'd be interested to know your thoughts on, I guess from a purist standpoint, or are you a little bit laxed on whether or not you are okay with the word, like, bourbon being on a bottle that's finished, and then, kind of how the wording is on the bottle and all of that. So Bobby, why don't you go, or yeah, Bobby, go ahead. You look like you.
So Fred Minnick just did a tasting on this on YouTube this past week.
Mm-hmm.
Went on a rant about, he doesn't mind that if a bourbon's cask finished, but when you have several cask finishes on there, it sort of mutates the word bourbon for him. For me, as long as it's labeled correctly, as long as people know it's bourbon finished in all this, and I know not to expect a traditional bourbon flavor, I'm fine with it. As long as all the information is disclosed and upfront.
I'm with you, Bobby, 100%. I like a lot of the finished bourbons. Our recent review of Joseph Magnus will tell anyone that. And like you said, as long as it says, it's a bourbon finished in blah, blah, blah in the same sentence, I'm okay with that. Now, the Legion bottle, it's a little deceiving. You know what I mean? So, I don't know.
I mean,
Each their own.
it still says
Last
bourbon
episode,
partially
too.
finished in wine and sherry casks. It's up front.
What does it say right under Legion, though?
One truly unique bourbon.
But if it starts off, if it's a bourbon that's been finished, it's still a bourbon. Is it not?
No, it's not.
Then,
I think it is.
I mean, by law, it's not a bourbon anymore. So, which is why they have to say it's a bourbon finished in X, Y, and Z.
Why does that bottle not say finished in?
it does right down here.
Legion does. It's at the bottom though, but right under.
Actually, the font on this, if we want to get picky, the font on this is larger than the font down here under Legion.
Yeah, but who reads the fine print? At the bottom.
I'd read that stuff. I'm looking at the proof too, and right above the proof and all that stuff is their information.
Right.
I think the word that hurts a lot of people with the Legion bottle is the word partially. Because they're like, what the hell does that mean, partially? And I know it just means not all the bourbon. For me, it just means not all the everything in the bottle wasn't blended together and finished in sherry.
Right.
But I think people think that's that denotes some kind of vague description about what's in the bottle.
I mean, to a certain degree, I mean, it's going to be a little vague in terms that they don't want to, let everyone know what's in there.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many people that just don't even want, the purists that don't want anything that blends, a standard bourbon and how it's made with anything finished. They don't want the word bourbon on there. I mean, it's, and again, I'm in the camp where, if you want to say that it's a bourbon, finished in. I mean, it starts out with, the bourbon as all the rules and laws and stuff go finished in. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, that's laying everything out and explaining, what exactly, it is. So that's my thoughts.
If they don't like it, they can send it to me. I'll drink it.
Look, is it 51% corn? Was it aged in, new charred oak barrels and finished? We started with Scotch. I got to say, with Scotch, yeah, finishing is allowed. It's made in Scotland. It can be made with grain. It's, it's meeting the standard. It's meeting the requirements.
Well, the purists want to argue that if it hits something else besides a brand new American oak barrel, then that in itself makes it not a bourbon. It's a whiskey. And that's the argument. I mean, you could say partially finishing this. They just don't want to call it bourbon anymore. And the way the rules are laid out, if you look at the fine print, if you read the laws, not changing the flavor profile of a bourbon, not adding anything, it's just that new American oak barrel, let Mother Nature do its thing, and then that gets bottled. That's bourbon. If you alter the flavor profile in any way, you cannot call it bourbon. So purists saying that if you're finishing it in something, you're altering the flavor profile, therefore it is not a bourbon. And I could see that side of it if you're reading the law. I mean, we may not care about it because good whiskey is good whiskey, and I'm on that side of it too. I really don't care. Whatever is good is good. But purists that look at the labels and are going to argue that fact of it, I get that argument. If you're a super purist about it, I can see that side of it.
The purists can sit and drink their traditional bourbons in the corner and in dark and anger. I'm going to drink some good bourbon.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I mean, we spent like 15 minutes on this last episode too, so I don't think we need to spend too much time on this. But like at the end of the day, as long as they tell you what they're doing with the whiskey, so you have an idea whether you're going to like the stuff or not, I don't care what you call it. Just tell me that it's finished in X, Y, and Z or whatever the case may be. It's somewhere on the bottle, and I'm good to go. I'm not a purist. Yeah. I don't care if you want to call it bourbon or not.
Yeah, I'm in that camp too. All right, real quick, we got a $2 super chat from Swami. It says for the plastic surgery, LOL. I'm not exactly sure what that was in reference to, but
he said he's never seen so many ugly people in one live stream. So
okay. All right. Well, he must have he probably already left then if he didn't want to look at all the ugly people. So
getting Swami on the live stream is not going to improve anything, is it? Hey, buddy.
All right. Well, so I guess we're right about an hour. Do we want to wrap things up? Maybe let everybody know where they can find you and maybe a little bit about your channel.
Call out where to start.
Bobby, go ahead.
I'm Bobby Childs. You can find me at adventuresinwhiskey.com. That's the blog. Online, Adventures in Whiskey or some variation with underscores or not on Instagram and Facebook. And Bobby Childs on Twitter.
Kyle?
I'm Kyle.
I'm Aaron.
We do blind bourbon reviews, not to get confused with John's blind whiskey reviews channel. Pretty much at Bourbon Blind on anything, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the kind of social media stuff.
Also, Facebook group Bourbon Blind Nation.
Yes, definitely. Be sure to join that. There's all kinds of cool stuff going on in there. So
cool. Jason?
So wait, John does finished bourbon reviews and you don't.
Correct. No, we do pretty much anything bourbon or rye, American related. So we're not picky. I'm just not a big fan of Scotch.
Oh, real quick before we wrap up, Jack of all blades, $1 super chat. we'll split that amongst us.
It's all yours.
Thanks. Thanks. Appreciate that.
Don't spend it all in one place.
I'm gonna try not to spend that all in one.
Yeah, you get 7 cents after YouTube's cut. Good job.
Exactly. Jason, go ahead, bud.
I am Jason C. You can find me at the Mash and Drum on YouTube. You can find me on the Mash and Drum on Instagram and at Mash and D on Twitter. Stay tuned. Soon we got a couple of really cool episodes coming out on the channel, including that interview with Caleb Kilburn at Peerless, which I did with Scott from my bourbon journey. So that interview will be releasing soon. I'm also going to be interviewing the brothers from the Greenbrier Distillery, talking to them about Belle Meade and some of the amazing things they're doing down there in Tennessee. So stay tuned for that, guys, and I appreciate the time.
Cool. John, go ahead.
Yep, John here with Blind Whiskey Reviews. You can catch me on Instagram and Twitter at blind_reviews. And yeah, check it out, guys.
Cool. Scott?
Scott here with Scotch Test Dummies, one half of us. Bart is not here. On YouTube, Scotch Test Dummies. On Instagram, The Real Scotch Test Dummies. And Twitter, Scotch Test Dummy.
Cool. And I, too, am Scott, My Bourbon Journey, on YouTube. You can find me on Instagram as well. Same thing with Twitter. Also have a Facebook page, My Bourbon Journey, as well. And I've got to hopefully try to do some live streams on maybe Tuesday nights when we're not doing another round stuff. I've got some good stuff coming out pretty soon. So check that out. And want to thank all the guys and Aaron for joining us tonight. Everybody in the chat, thanks for joining tonight. And we will see you on someone's channel here coming up real soon for the 5th episode of another round. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.